As the morning sun peeked through, Elyas, living in a veteran's shelter, started exercising. He was once captured by the enemy as a prisoner of war on the battlefield and suffered from severe PTSD. Even though he returned home, his mind was always tense, even wearing a bulletproof vest when going out, fearing another attack. Worse, under high pressure, Elyas began to hallucinate. Although his neighbors had moved out a week ago, he still heard their voices every night, even drilling holes in the wall to watch them. The shelter manager couldn't bear it any longer and advised him to seek psychological treatment. But Elyas was arrogant and self-important, of course refusing. Angrily, he packed his bag and left. Fortunately, his comrade Jan couldn't bear to see Elyas living such a miserable life, and kindly introduced him to a job protecting a Middle Eastern family living in a villa. At first, Elyas intended to refuse, but he had nowhere else to go, so he reluctantly agreed. The next morning, Elyas arrived at the target villa and stood in front of the gate with 3 other guards. The boss Jamal approached, walking steadily, and introduced to the whole group the people they needed to protect, Amina and her daughter, Noor. But Noor showed resistance to Elyas, mocking his worn-out clothes as soon as they met. Only when Jamal sternly reminded her not to be rude did Noor reluctantly shake Elyas's hand. Even so, Elyas didn't care. He originally had no intention of befriending anyone. Just doing his job as a protector was enough. After that, the captain led Elyas to his room and installed software connected to the surveillance system on his phone, making it easy for him to check every corner of the villa. So Elyas officially began his career as a bodyguard. He climbed onto a high chair watching Amina slowly dive into the middle of the pool. It must be said that this high-tech scene broadened his perception. Not long after, Amina unexpectedly approached Elyas, led him to the kitchen, and asked him to be responsible for protecting Noor. However, Noor was clearly not an easy person to deal with. As soon as Amina left, she took meat to the black dog in the villa. This harmonious image warmed Elyas's heart, realizing that Noor truly had a kind heart. But as soon as he turned his head, he unexpectedly spotted 2 other guards secretly talking about something. Elyas immediately felt that something was wrong and called Jan. When he learned that Jan also didn't know the other guards, Elyas expressed his concern that these people might be plotting something. But Jan warned Elyas not to act rashly, reminding him that this place wasn't a battlefield and that the thing to do was to report to the police if he discovered suspicious events. Not stopping there, the next day, when Elyas went out to pick up deliveries, Noor unexpectedly rode her bike out of the villa. Both immediately noticed 2 mysterious people on a motorcycle on the side of the road approaching. Noor saw the dangerous situation. Elyas knelt on one knee, his right hand behind his back, pretending to be preparing to draw a gun. Perhaps that scene scared the 2 mysterious people, and they quickly left without looking back. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Elyas carefully observed and recognized a diamond tattoo on the back of the hand of one of the 2 people, clearly not good people. The incident quickly reached Jamal, who was furious and summoned all 4 guards, emphasizing that they absolutely must not let Noor and Amina leave the villa. These words made Elyas suspicious, not understanding why Jamal protected the 2 of them like canaries in a cage. But he also didn't ask further, instead seeking out the guard captain to discuss it. Elyas expressed that the 2 mysterious guys definitely wouldn't give up and that they needed to be prepared. The captain understood the situation, opened the weapons box, and gave Elyas a pistol. That night, Elyas went outside to smoke a cigarette to relax and happened to see Noor alone stargazing. Perhaps because she was grateful to Elyas for the incident that afternoon, or because she had been too lonely, Noor made an exception to share her findings with Elyas. Unexpectedly, this hit his interest, as he was once a paratrooper and was very knowledgeable about astronomy. With a few simple adjustments to the telescope, he found more constellations, making Noor extremely admire him. The distance between Elyas and Noor gradually narrowed. But the next morning, Amina couldn't bear it anymore. She didn't want to continue being confined in this cramped villa and wanted to be like normal people, taking her daughter to the city for shopping. However, Jamal immediately refused and warned Amina that they weren't like other people. But Amina was almost mentally exhausted. She tried to persuade him, agreeing to let a bodyguard accompany them. Noor also spoke up in support, pleading with Jamal to let them go out just once. Noor even said reproachful words, implying not to be selfish like someone. These words hurt Jamal, reminding him of unpleasant memories. Finally, Jamal changed his decision, agreeing to let the 2 women go shopping, but instructing Elyas to go with them and protect them closely. As they were preparing to leave, the captain unexpectedly came to ask Elyas why he had provided false information, because according to yesterday's surveillance video, no one had passed by the villa on a motorcycle the entire time. Only Elyas and Noor were outside. These clear images shocked Elyas. Why was his memory so wrong? Was he hallucinating again? He didn't dare say anything more, fearing that if his mental instability was discovered, things would get worse. He hurriedly took Amina and Noor out of the villa. Sitting in the car, Noor looked out the window, her eyes full of admiration for the free young people outside. Amina couldn't help but feel sorry when she realized how much her daughter had suffered, but she was also helpless, only being able to use this shopping trip to make up for it somewhat. However, just as they were about to get into the car, Elyas unexpectedly saw two people on a motorcycle appear, immediately drawing a gun and becoming vigilant. However, those two people quickly stopped right next to them, clearly revealing the diamond tattoo on their hands. Elyas didn't dare hesitate any longer, stepping on the gas and speeding forward. The two mysterious guys also chased closely behind. Amina panicked, constantly muttering that they had found them. Fortunately, with his skillful driving skills, Elyas crossed the intersection and cut off the two pursuers, bringing Amina and her daughter safely back to the villa. However, Elyas couldn't bear it anymore. He immediately sought out Noor, who was packing her things, and questioned her about the two people on the motorcycle. He also asked why Amina was so scared. Knowing she couldn't hide it any longer, Noor had to reveal the truth. It turned out that she was the daughter of a Middle Eastern prince. Before, Noor had lived a luxurious life, but her father, for political interests, had decided to marry his only 13-year-old daughter to a man over 50 years old. This man already had 6 wives and 18 children, so he didn't care at all about the thoughts of a little daughter. Amina couldn't accept that. She contacted Jamal's younger brother and secretly took the two of them to France to seek political asylum. After hearing the story, Elyas realized that he had been drawn into a terrible crisis. Angrily, he sought out Jamal, drawing a gun and forcing Jamal to tell the truth. But at that moment, a bullet unexpectedly pierced Jamal's head, killing him instantly. Immediately after, bullets rained down like a shower, forcing Elyas to quickly hide behind the window. He saw a large mercenary team breaking into the villa. The villa's guards eagerly fought back, but were no match for the mercenary team and were successively killed. Elyas quickly regained his composure, hiding in the darkness, drawing a folding knife, and in the blink of an eye killed a mercenary, seizing his rifle. Stepping out of the villa, Elyas saw the captain shot in the head, realizing that from now on he could only rely on himself. He sneaked into the kitchen, shooting down a lone mercenary. Then, he connected the mercenary's walkie-talkie to his headset. Unexpectedly, Elyas heard a report that someone had found a woman hiding in a closet. He immediately ran there and took down the mercenary with a precise shot, but his hand was also scratched. Ignoring the pain, Elyas quickly fired 2 more shots, saving the panicked Amina. Just as the two were about to breathe a sigh of relief, Elyas's headset transmitted information that Noor had been captured. He immediately told Amina to hide in the car and then climbed onto the wall to monitor the situation. Elyas saw the mercenaries holding Noor. Elyas removed the flagpole. He jumped down and rammed the flagpole straight into the enemy's shoulder, quickly rescuing Noor and starting the car to escape from the villa. However, just as they entered the city, a gun unexpectedly appeared from the window of a car next to them. Panicked, Elyas immediately reversed and continued to flee. The continuous chase made him angry. He quietly stopped the car at an intersection and waited for the enemies to pass by, then unexpectedly rushed out, ramming their car over. However, Elyas's car was also no longer movable. He abandoned the car, threw all 3 of their phones into a flower bed to avoid being located via satellite, and then took Noor onto a bus and left the safe area. Night began to fall. Elyas and Noor arrived in a Jigan settlement. Here, Elyas met the leader of the group, a longtime friend of his. Seeing that Elyas was injured, the friend immediately bandaged his wounds and provided shelter for Amina and her daughter. Amina was extremely grateful, taking out some of her valuable jewelry to thank him for the help. However, the next morning, a wanted notice for Elyas appeared on the news, accusing him of killing 3 comrades at the villa to seize their property. Elyas was shocked and lost control of his emotions, thinking that Amina had betrayed him. In his anger, he strangled her. Fortunately, a woman with a shotgun intervened in time, and Amina repeatedly explained that she hadn't framed Elyas, helping him regain his composure. But Elyas decided not to let things go so easily. He suspected Jan and used a trick to capture Jan, tying him to an airplane propeller for questioning. However, Jan was also misled by the news into believing that Elyas was the killer and claimed that Jamal and Amina and her daughter had safely left the villa. Hearing this, Elyas decided to take Jan back to the villa to prove his innocence. But when they turned on the lights, the house was completely clean, with no traces of a gunfight. More strangely, through the security cameras, they discovered that the day before, Elyas himself had led Jamal and Amina and her daughter away, while killing each of the guards. These unbelievable images completely panicked Elyas and plunged him into deep self-doubt. Could it be that I lost my mind and killed everyone? As Elyas's mind was in turmoil, Jan suddenly noticed something unusual. The surveillance video showed some strange fluctuations. He slowed down each frame and finally discovered a scene of a dog biting a mercenary, proving that the tapes had been edited. Elyas immediately asked Jan to copy this unusual part to use as evidence to clear the suspicion. However, Elyas still didn't understand why the person behind the scenes was deliberately harming him. To clarify the truth, they decided to find the person who hired Elyas. Both acted quickly, capturing the man and tying him to a chair. At first, the man stubbornly refused to admit anything, but when Elyas used a hot iron to torture him, he began to confess everything. The entire plan was directed by Noor's father. After learning that his daughter was hiding in France, he hired this man to lead a team of mercenaries to bring her back. To avoid causing diplomatic problems, the man sought out Jan to ask if there were any veterans with PTSD, and Elyas, with his unstable mental state, became the perfect scapegoat. After hearing this, Elyas was furious, forcing the man to reveal the identity of the organization he worked for. But he just remained silent and glanced towards the corner of the room, where there was a camera. Elyas immediately understood that their location had been revealed. He asked Jan to stand guard outside, while he continued to greet the man. Realizing he couldn't hide it any longer, he admitted that the organization he worked for was highly confidential. He only followed orders and didn't know who his superiors were. He also revealed that the organization agreed to support Noor's father because he threatened to stop buying weapons, which could cause tens of billions of dollars in losses for the organization. Hearing that everything revolved around profit, Elyas couldn't restrain his anger and ended the man's life with a knife. At the same time, two mercenaries approached their location. Jan, with his excellent skills, hid in the darkness and slit one's throat, then fought hand-to-hand with the other, finally using a lamppost to take him down. Even so, the danger was not over. Elyas realized that France was no longer safe and they needed to quickly take Amina and her daughter away. Jan suggested an acquaintance who was a professional smuggler, who could help them cross the border into England, but the cost would be quite high. However, for Amina, all problems that could be solved with money were no problem. Elyas opened the backpack he was carrying, inside filled with cash and cryptocurrencies to cover any contingencies. Jamal had already prepared fake passports for them. The four hastily set out into the night, heading for the border. While driving, Elyas noticed an RV closely following behind, making him vigilant. He quietly sped up and told Jan to throw away his phone. But soon after, the RV overtook them and continued on its journey. Elyas thought he had been too careful. Due to prolonged stress, Elyas's body began to give out, and he decided to stop to rest on the side of the road. While eating, Elyas noticed a man secretly touching his hand, making him suspicious. Elyas got up and secretly followed the man, seeing him board the same RV they had encountered on the road. Without hesitation, Elyas sneaked inside the RV, drew a knife, and stabbed a woman who was standing in front of him in the hand. Then, a fierce battle broke out in the small space. Elyas was like a god of war, using every object in the car to take down each enemy, not faltering for a moment even when facing many people. When everything became quiet, Elyas pulled up the sleeve of a man and discovered a clear bite mark, confirming that he was the mercenary who had once been bitten by a dog. After the incident, the group continued their journey and reached the border by the sea. Not long after, the guide appeared, driving a truck with a forklift hidden inside the truck bed, used to conceal the border crossers. Noor saw the scene inside the truck bed and went pale with fear, as she suffered from severe claustrophobia. Only when Elyas promised to always be by her side did Noor summon all her courage and step into the truck bed. To ensure safety, Jan decided to drive behind them. When the secret compartment was covered by the forklift, the group began their journey. They approached the channel tunnel when the truck unexpectedly stopped. Elyas thought this was a customs inspection, but the secret compartment was unexpectedly opened and spotlights shone inside. Noor immediately realized that something was wrong, but it was too late. Amina was shot on the spot. Two mercenaries standing in front wildly fired into the truck bed, while Noor was captured and taken onto another car, and Jan was also overpowered. Unknown how much later, Elyas was awakened by a dense cloud of smoke. He took off his bulletproof vest. Elyas quickly drove the truck through the truck bed, seeing the car burning fiercely with a deafening explosion. Meanwhile, the mercenary leader discovered a missing body at the scene of the explosion and realized that Elyas had escaped. Knowing that he wouldn't survive, Jan told them Elyas's story. Many years ago, on the battlefield, a close friend of Elyas was captured by the enemy. To save his friend, Elyas voluntarily surrendered. But a month later, the army only found Elyas exhausted in a mass grave, next to which was the head of his close friend. No one knew what Elyas had gone through during that time, only that he suffered from severe post-traumatic stress disorder and could no longer fight. The actions of the mercenary group had caused the fighting blood in Elyas to boil again. Now, they would have to face the return of a god of slaughter. The leader didn't believe it at first, but after checking Elyas's combat record, he realized he was facing a living nightmare. He immediately executed Jan and ordered all forces to be gathered to prepare for a life-or-death battle. Elyas, unaware of what had happened, sought out a former comrade to ask for help. He used a tablet to find information about the building where Nur used to live and planned a paragliding infiltration. Elyas's comrade didn't ask much, immediately taking him up high. As night fell, the two arrived at the target. Strong winds pulled Elyas out of the plane, but he quickly regained his balance, ready for the mission. Elyas plunged straight toward the building and successfully opened his parachute, landing safely. He quickly assembled his weapons, put on his night vision goggles, and began to advance down the floors. Using a gun capable of shooting around corners, Elyas destroyed the security cameras. Then, through the surveillance system, located Nur's room. He snuck through the stairwell, avoiding and neutralizing the guards who were eagerly checking the cameras. With just 2 precise shots, Elyas took down 2 guards before they could react. Using a security card obtained from a guard, he opened the room and found Nur. But as the two were preparing to leave, a deafening alarm rang out, and the entire building was covered by layers of steel shielding. Elyas realized a major battle was about to take place, immediately telling Nur to stay behind and quickly leading her into the elevator. However, the elevator was controlled and couldn't move up. Nur remembered that there was another way to the roof from her father's room. Elyas immediately carried Nur on his back and moved in that direction, but they were being heavily pursued. Fighting and retreating, Elyas entered a room that looked like a museum. Immediately after, hordes of guards swarmed in. Under the dense hail of bullets, Elyas calmly returned fire. He threw a stun grenade, quickly reversing the situation and annihilating all the enemies before escaping into the elevator again. Reaching the floor where Nur's father was, Elyas checked the surveillance screen and saw 3 guards standing in front of the door. He lay down, determined the positions, and then successively took down all 3 with just 3 precise shots. Knowing that the danger wasn't over, Elyas activated the fire suppression system with a lighter, creating a concealing mist, and then instructed Nur to stay in the elevator while he cleared the way. After the battle ended, Elyas returned to pick up Nur to continue moving forward, but a big guy suddenly appeared, knocking him down with a fire extinguisher. The two engaged in a fierce battle in the water from the fire suppression system. Although Elyas had experienced many battles before, he remained in top form and was determined to overcome this powerful opponent to protect Nur. In her panic, Nur saw a knife nearby, took all her courage, picked it up, and stabbed it straight into the enemy's shoulder. The pain caused the man to release Elyas, and Elyas immediately took the opportunity, using the fire extinguisher to knock him down. In his anger, Elyas relentlessly slammed the fire extinguisher into the guy's head. Nur had to shout and stop him. He hugged Nur, covering her eyes so she wouldn't have to see the bloody scene around them. Regaining his composure, Elyas picked up his weapons and moved with Nur toward her father's room. When he saw the portrait of her father on the wall, Elyas's eyes were full of hatred. He intended to rush in and kill him, Nur quickly preventing him, explaining that her father's death would have serious political consequences. She pulled Elyas out and led him to the roof. There, Elyas put a jetpack on his back and put a protective suit on Nur. The two jumped off the building, opened their parachutes, and disappeared into the night. Sometime later, Elyas took Nur to her aunt's house in Morocco to recuperate. Nur released the edited surveillance video to the media, helping Elyas clear his name. She was also accepted into a local school and began to live the peaceful life she had always dreamed of. After dropping Nur off at the school gate, Elyas got into a taxi to complete his final mission. He climbed onto a high building, used a sniper rifle, and targeted the mercenaries. 3 precise shots rang out, and everything finally came to an end. Okay, today's video has come to an end. See you again in the next videos.